Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are waiting for more colleagues to join. So stay with us a couple of minutes more. We have interpretation in Spanish and in French. Tenemos traducción para el español en el canal de interpretación y en francés. Philippe, could you please say it in French?
Avec plaisir, nous disposons d'une fonction d'interprétation de l'anglais vers le français à laquelle vous pouvez accéder depuis la barre au bas de l'écran.
Merci, merci. So if you have any problem with the interpretation channel, just please let Philippe or Alejandra, my colleague who is also here, and don't hesitate to contact them. So yeah, stay with us. I'm based in Costa Rica. It's early here, so if you want to go to look for I have my cup of tea here. So please take a couple of minutes to grab your coffee, tea, soup, or whatever you can drink or eat at this time of the day for you. So thank you again, and we will wait a couple of minutes more. Also, if you like, you can rename your name and add the country you are joining today in your name. Anyway, we're going to do the introductions in a minute when more people have joined. And well, there are many people joining today. Exciting. Welcome, Mauricio. Very nice to have you here.
Hi, hello, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So what do you think, Patty? Do you want us to start, or should we wait 1 minute more?
Yeah, let's give it 1 more minute and then we can go.
Great. We have almost 30 people.
Nice.
So good morning for everybody. We're waiting for 1 minute more.
Oh, this is wonderful. I'm seeing Nigeria, Liberia. What else have we got? Can't tell sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that maybe we are ready to start, right? You feel, yeah?
Sure.
So yeah, welcome everybody, and thank you again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this last Food and Agricultural Commodity System event, the FACS community event. First, I would like to mention that we have interpretation channel for Spanish and French. Tenemos interpretación para español. Si tienen problemas, por favor, contacten a mi colega Alejandra. And in French, please, Philippe, go ahead. Could you please say in French
Oui,
too?
nous disposons d'une fonction d'interprétation de l'anglais vers le français. Vous pourriez y accéder depuis la barre au bas de l'écran. Si vous avez des problèmes, vous pouvez me contacter ou mes collègues. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Philippe. And my name is Sandra Andraca. I'm the gender focal point for the Food and Agriculture Commodity System FACS team, and also the learning and membership advisor. So I will be in contact with you with different capacities. And I'm here today with my colleagues of the FACS community, Alejandra Garcia Castellón, who is also a member of a part of the gender team, and Philippe Fleury. Also, thank you, Philippe, for being here. And our colleague, and Alexandra. Alexandra, you're around? Thank Alexandra. Alexandra is a program and knowledge management analyst of FACS. And thank you, Alexandra, for joining us. I would like to give her a special recognition to her. She's the one who is leading the delivery of all these events, of the FACS community events. And this is the last one of the year. And Alexandra, if you're around, please turn your camera on. And I'm not sure how many events we have delivered this year, Alexandra. So which number
Quite a
is this
few.
one?
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see so many colleagues at today's event. And indeed, as Sandra mentioned, this is our last event this year. And we've had over 30 events throughout 2024. The majority of them were under FOLUR, but we've also had some events that were specifically organized for other programs, such as the Sustainable Landscape Program in Indonesia and the Green Commodities Program 3. So great to see so many of you here, and looking forward to the session today.
Thank you, Alexandra. And we would like you to introduce yourself, please. Introduce yourself in the chat, write your name, your organization, if you have a role in FOLUR, or your position, and where are you joining us today? As Patty was already saying, we see many people from different regions, from Latin America. I see Enrique with the camera. Please, if you can turn your camera on, it's good. It will increase the connection. Good morning, buenos días, Enrique. We have colleagues from Africa, from Liberia. Hello. And other colleagues from, Erica, our colleagues from FAO, Erica, Mauricio, thank you for joining us today. From Nigeria, good afternoon. Titilopi. Hello, Dinara from World Bank, thank you for joining us today. I know that we have people from Peru. We have other colleagues from Indonesia. Thank you, Vini, and thank you all the colleagues in Indonesia and Radna, and the colleagues in Indonesia for joining so late. Thank you. We promise that the next year we will have more events in your time zone. Yeah, Patty, we have people from different countries.
Yes, no, this is great.
Also joining people who have been working with us. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much again. And this event is organized, as I said, by the FACS community together with the Food System Landscape and Restoration Program, the FOLUR program, and with our colleagues from FAO. It's a South-South knowledge exchange and lessons learned event, and is under the Gender Learning Program category. And what we want to have today is like an open conversation. So please don't hesitate to type in the chat box. If you need to say something, just raise your hand. If Alejandra will be supporting, and I will be supporting with the Spanish. Philippe will be, and Alexandra will be supporting also with the French. And yes, please turn your camera on if you have a good connection. And I will go briefly through the agenda. If I can see the agenda here in this the screen, we're gonna have like 5 blocks. Alejandra, can you share the agenda, please. I can go through it. Thank you. So we are having this opening and introduction, and Alejandra is going to present us also a little bit about the gender equality group, and then Patty will give an overview on the gender learning program, and Patty is the gender FOLUR leader, and then Estela, the gender consultant, UNDP FACTS gender consultant, she will do some reflections on the way forward to the new edition of the gender learning program. As maybe some of you know, the last year and this beginning of this year, we had this gender learning program edition, and we've been doing some interviews, talking to you, listening to you to see what you need for the next edition. So we will talk about this, and then we will have an open discussion and some wrap up and closure at the end. So without further ado, Alejandra, please go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the gender equality platform.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Thank you all for this space. I'm sure that lots of you are already familiar with the page that I'm showing right now, which is the FOLUR community page that is hosted inside our FACTS community network. And I wanted to just showcase a little bit how to get to it, so you can access it easily through programs or through thematics for the gender equality case. And once you access, for instance, as we did through the FOLUR community, you'll be able to go down to the global platform offer, and in this case to gender equality, which once it loads, you'll be able to see all that we're working on and all that you can be working on as well as finding valuable contacts. So as to my colleagues, Patricia, Maurizio, or Sandra, and you'll be see here in the main landing page, all that is related to technical support, as well as all the resources that you can find in the library. Regardless, you can also see everything here through the Gender Equality Library, and you'll be able to explore all the resources that we have, or be aware of what's going on and what are all the news that are happening at the same time right now, which, for instance, and to keep it brief, just to have a quick look at the Gender Equality Library, you'll be able to see many resources on FOLUR and gender, as well as the previous gender learning program that was hosted last year in the previous one, as well as all the resources that have been taken for gender in FOLUR. And I would like to showcase also that here you'll be able to see all gender-related FOLUR events that we will be hosting next year. So please feel free to join, play with it, and keep us updated with all that you're working on right now. Thank you.
Alejandra, if I may add just one small thing, is that this group is also available in French and Spanish in case you prefer this language.
Thank you, Philippe. Completely. We try to showcase and to see that all your needs are met through that too. Thanks.
So please
Great.
join us if you haven't done it yet. And yes, Patty, please go ahead with your presentation.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks to the whole UNDP team for all their great organizing and putting this together. And the site is really very accessible and a lot of material on it. So please join. So Alejandro, let's jump right in. If you don't mind, could we go to the presentation? I'm going to speed ahead. There's people here that are new to FOLUR. And there's several of you that have been completely involved in this whole process. So I'm just going to do a really brief overview of where we are in terms of FOLUR's gender learning program. Next slide. We've been doing this over the last year or so. And basically we've broke it down and tried to keep it very simple. It's PowerPoints with the video included, so you can just look at the PowerPoint, or you can look at the video and hear all the comments and what everyone said in the sessions. It's broken down into modules. So we have an introductory module right at the beginning that basically introduces the key gender equality concepts in the context of land use, restoration, and value chains. Talks about policies and standards, global standards that are so important. And it goes through some of the different concepts and tools that we have available for all of you on how can we integrate gender into FOLUR interventions and think more about gender transformative actions and activities in our projects. So this is about designing gender responsive interventions. How do we collect gender sensitive data? The monitoring and evaluation issues, indicators loom large there. There's a lot of good guidance on indicators in the gender space. And how do we communicate gender issues more effectively? So that's the intro module. Next slide, please. Then we jump right into some of the different areas, the technical areas that FOLUR and other programs and projects similar to FOLUR are dealing with. And integrated landscape or land use management processes and approaches loom large. This is about getting agricultural and environmental ministries and agencies together to work on integrated landscape management approaches. So this module covers why do we want to put gender equality first and foremost in these projects, okay? That we have to recognize that these gender inequalities exist. They affect how projects are implemented. And these projects will not be effective and efficient and impactful unless we do a better job of this. That's one of our main arguments. So we need to recognize, address inequalities, generate opportunities. We also in this module cover the concepts raised by IFPRI and others in the research world that we've got to get beyond thinking just about reaching women and other marginalized groups, but we want to think about benefiting, empowering, and indeed transforming lives within these projects. And so a lot of the practical advice and suggestions and examples we try to pull out in these modules are thinking about what does that mean in terms of technical project activities, sort of going beyond the safety idea that we are just doing safeguards. We actually have some great opportunities to go beyond safeguards. So in this module, we heard from Honduras, from Costa Rica and Panama, and Ghana. Some very nice examples of how these projects are empowering people. So next slide, please. We also introduced you all to this World Bank Learning Initiative, and it's an online course, so the link is there. Encourage people to check that out. This is a very nice resource that's open access, free to everyone. Next slide, please. In the next module, we focused in a little bit about more on the forest landscape restoration world. You know, what is this FLR? And the power imbalances that often limit women's, and indeed Indigenous people come in here very strongly. How are they participating in and benefiting from forest landscape restoration processes? And of course, this highlights the importance of inclusive participatory processes that really get at the different interests of different community members. I really am going fast here, but these are all available and some of you have seen them, so I didn't want to spend too much time. Next slide, please. What I liked in this module was we actually took a dive a little bit into, well, what do we mean by forest landscape interventions? What do they look like? What are the different options? And the CGIAR has a wonderful e-learning course on gender and inclusion in forest landscape restoration. The link is there. I really encourage people to check that out. Next slide, please. Here again, this idea of thinking about going beyond reaching to benefiting and empowering. One of the things we've tried to do in these modules is pull out specific examples. So what could a forest landscape restoration project do to empower? So if you look at the right-hand side of this screen, you know, that's thinking about forest or land agencies dedicating funds for targeted technical and particularly leadership training to women involved in these activities. We can measure and value how these projects empower women. We introduce people to the Women's Empowerment Standard, W+, a really nice way for projects to think about how do they measure how they are empowering women, because many of the projects are. And thinking about funds dedicated to innovative communication efforts that raise the visibility of what women and others are doing and best practices. And again, we've got a nice practical brief and the link is there. Next slide, please. So this module also shared some of FOLUR's gender partner resources, really nice examples coming from FAO. FAO has a wide range of materials and resources, as does UNDP and other partners that we aren't mentioning. Jeff, for example, the Global Environmental Fund. So we try to always provide the links and the actual resources so you can get them easily. And we had a nice example here from our Liberia team in FOLUR. Thank you very much. I think someone might be online. And they highlighted actually the fact that it's really multiple strategies within their project. You know, doing the gender analysis, working with local community women's groups in planning, make sure they're involved in the planning of restoration. That idea that it's got to be different ministries and agencies involved and the private sector, collecting the sex disaggregated data, the gender indicators that again, we've got a lot of guidance and help for. The facilitated dialogues are just so important. And they highlighted actually the grievance mechanisms around restoration were very key also. Next slide, please. We went on in the final module to talk about more the commodity value chains and thinking about how do we empower people within the value chain. So not just at production, but through the whole process. We had the International Finance Corporation, the IFC, involved, talking about you know, the business case for increasing women's participation all along the smallholder value chains. And again, some very nice resources. So I encourage you to look at these presentations. We once again had some really nice FOLUR country project experiences highlighted in this module. From Indonesia, from Mexico, from Burundi. And I really thank our colleagues that are, some of you are here for participating in this. And of course, we will continue to build on this and continue to tell your stories and let the world know that these things can be done and are being done. And you are doing them very creatively. We want to tell those stories. Next slide, please. So this is from the IFC materials. I thought it was a really nice graphic that kind of really captures, you know, the range of challenges we're talking about addressing in our projects, from access to credit, to seeds, to information, you know, family issues, gender, sort of cultural norms. How do we, you know, work with groups and collective action is just so important. So all these things are covered in these modules. The next slide, please. And again, here IFC pointed out a whole bunch of gender smart agri-solutions in their materials, which I really liked, and I feel like it's very helpful. So I won't go through all these, but you can take a look. Next slide, please. So then we put together a synthesis, actually, and we called it a practical note that goes through some of the highlights of these different learning modules. So I really hope this can be useful to you and to share it with your teams. It's not very long and hopefully very sort of focused to some of your needs. Now, having said that, as we move forward, and what we've been asking you is, so here we are, this is what we've done. Where are we going from here? What do we do over the next year? How do we build on this? How do we make it even more used and useful? And I really thank everyone that's been interviewed and provided some feedback on that. And my colleague Stella is now going to move into what you've told us. And then we're going to open it up for discussion to get your some more of your feedback on how this, what we're learning resonates and what it means for how we work together over the next year. So thank you very much. I hope that wasn't too speedy.
Thank you, Patty. And please, if you have any questions, you can type on the chat box or just raise your hand. And now, Stella, please share with us some of the findings of the interviews we have conducted.
Thank you, Patty, for this brilliant overview of what we have been doing over the past 2 years with the Gender Learning Program. Which was the first sort of capacity building initiative, one of the first capacity building initiatives on gender within FOLUR. Following this first round of the Gender Learning Program, we discussed about getting more feedback from participants in addition to what they had provided after the courses through one-to-one interviews to get their overall feedback, but more importantly, reflections on how we can design the second round of the Gender Learning Program to address more directly the needs that are coming from FOLUR country projects. So we organized a set of interviews with FOLUR gender focal points, but also representatives of FOLUR implementing partners at the global level. Alejandra, if you could share the screen, please. And one of the things, next slide, please. One of the things that we obviously needed to discuss are the challenges that FOLUR country projects have encountered so far with regards to gender at the programmatic level. If you can go to the next slide, please.
I will stop sharing. I will ask my colleague Philippe if he's able to, because I'm having some problems with connection my way. So it seems that it's not switching. Thank you, Philippe. Okay. Sorry for that, Stella.
Okay, it's fine.
Second, I'll be ready to help.
Yes.
There you go. Is this a good one, Stella?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. So these are more or less challenges that all countries are facing, but to different extent and different degrees. I mean, some are country specific, context specific. For example, not all FOLUR countries have a dedicated gender expert or gender focal point as they were supposed to have right at the beginning of the implementation, at least the countries that have started with implementation. There is someone, of course, who deals with gender issues and integration of gender in FOLUR, but that person sometimes is also in charge of other tasks, which makes it a bit difficult to dedicate full time to this important objective of FOLUR. There is also the issue of resources, even though countries are supposed to have planned in advance the budget for gender specific interventions, but also integration of gender in other activities. There is the old issue and challenge that is also systematic of interests, willingness, awareness. So they are mixed together sometimes at different levels, starting with government partners, program staff, implementing partners. Not everyone, there might be willingness, for example, to integrate gender, but there could be, for example, lack of specific knowledge and capacities to do so. That's why at least we're trying to address through these events, this gender learning program, some of these challenges. We cannot maybe not address all of them, but at least some that we can, we're trying to. There is also lack of local expertise in the context of agriculture, land management, and restoration. While there are many gender experts out there, not all of them have the specific knowledge to apply gender concepts or to address gender gaps within the context that FOLUR is being implemented. And this is also an issue that we are trying to address through this training and activities. In some countries, for example, the problem is that most of the project staff working directly with communities are men, and this creates a problem in approaching women, especially in countries that there is more patriarchal norms are still prevailing to that extent that women are not fully free to participate in events. So this was, for example, the case that one of colleagues mentioned. And for example, the extension, I'm not naming countries now, but most of the extension workers, they were men, while a very small majority of them were women, and they are supposed to work directly with communities, and so this created a problem. Another problem relates to the modalities of implementation through implementing partners. So there are different implementing partners that are implementing different components of projects, and not all of them are abiding by the project document requirements in terms of gender integration, gender implementation, monitoring and evaluation, and so forth. So they also need to be involved in these capacity building activities. There is also the issue of staff turnover. People who have been trained may leave the program within the project management units, or also the government partners and implementing partners. This has also been a challenge, and there is always need for training of newcomers, new staff joining the programs, in addition to the projects that will start with implementation in the next year. But we don't want to focus so much on the challenges, because we cannot address all of them. But I mentioned the things that we can sort of try to help address through these programs. And we discussed different options that could suit better the needs of teams, of FOLUR teams. And there were different needs that were identified through these interviews. One of them, in terms of the targeted audience, so basically who'd benefit mostly from this training and the next gender learning program. One idea was that everyone needs a general training on FOLUR and gender, similar to the one that Patty mentioned at the beginning. It was the introductory module of general gender concepts in the context of food and agriculture. And this is important because everyone needs to be on the same footing, the same understanding on the standards and the requirements that they have with regards to gender. And we're talking about international standards, but also national standards. Then there was another approach that we could follow with regards to having sort of the different trainings designed for different audiences, having one general introductory for expert staff that don't necessarily have a gender background and gender expertise or experience, or new staff joining, and then a more in-depth technical training going deeper in the issues that Patty mentioned during the second and the third learning program. And this could create also more opportunities for the exchange of information. And then, so basically offering these two overall set of trainings, and then going into more specific trainings, which could be handled also through the gender focal points within the country teams. Next slide, please. In terms of the format, so far the trainings that we organized were at the global level because not all FOLUR country projects had started with implementation at the time, so we didn't have all countries to sort of target them within the region. But that we were aware that created some restraints in terms of time zone, but also didn't create a sufficient smaller space for people to feel more open and free to talk and to discuss their challenges. So this is something that came along in all the interviews that we came, the need to have more specific regional trainings that cover issues that are similar to regional countries, and especially addressing the issue of time zones, so that the trainings take place in a normal time for people within their working hours. There were also some very useful suggestions to organize regional trainings around specific commodities or value chains of different FOLUR commodities, such as cocoa or palm oil. And another issue that emerged, another specific need that emerged, is having this kind of gender learning clinics, which is more, we need to develop more, and we would really welcome your thoughts on that as well today, to have targeted support from our team in FOLUR Global Platform and other partners of FOLUR at the global level, to provide individual support to country projects based on their specific needs. Maybe have individual trainings with countries, with all the team that is involved or part of the team, or one-to-one exchanges, sharing information, reviewing their documents, this sort of interaction that is sort of more practical rather than having a formal training format. So that was a very brief summary of several interviews that we've had in the past several weeks. And we don't want to go on talking more about this, because we would really love to hear your views on these options that we are considering, whether you find this useful, whether you'd find basic training necessary in addition to more deep and specific trainings, whether regional trainings could be the best option for you, and so on and so forth. So please feel free to discuss and to give your reflection on what was presented here. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, not easy questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so anyone, you can type your reflections on the chat box, or you can also take the floor. You are very welcome in the language that you prefer. Maybe we can hear also from colleagues that were included in the interviews that we interviewed that are also today present, that they can sort of make their case again or share their ideas with the colleagues. So please feel free.
Yeah, I guess I would like to hear more about, what do you guys like about what we've done? What don't you like? I know already one of the problems is sometimes it's a little too general. We talk about targeted, women's leadership training or something, but how do you do that specifically in your context, and what kind of help do you need to do that? We want to keep zooming down and giving very, very practical examples of not just the what, but the how, because how we do these things is very important. No one wants to speak up? Lena, what about you? You stayed up late for this, so you've got a whole group of you from Indonesia. What I love about the Indonesia example is you have these field coordinators, and the field coordinators are with us today for the first time. And I'm sure it's been too much information too fast. But again, how do we make it as useful as possible for your field coordinators? maybe could I put
Yeah.
the Indonesia team on the spot to say
we-
something about that?
But Vinny has already raised her hand.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Vinny, please.
All right. Hi, Patty, Alex, sorry, Agustela, Sandra, and colleagues. Sorry, I cannot use my video. Like, it's pretty late, so the lighting is really bad at the moment. Sorry about this. But yeah, and all colleagues from different region of the world. Thank you, Agustela, and all the gender team for taking into account the interview result from all of us here. Take that into account and present to us this evening here in Jakarta time. Yeah, I'm glad that today there's a lot of Indonesian team can join in a short notice because so I really also want to appreciate our field coordinator from 5 project sites, and in one of the site in Papua, Steve is here. It's even 2 hours ahead of my time in Jakarta. So I think it's kind of showing our gender commitment in FOLUR Indonesia, led by Mbak Ratna, the national project manager, is also here, who's providing a room to to progress amid that we might want to do more than what we have now. But we also want to thank the platform that provided through this gender learning course. I think I mentioned to Agustela, with all the limitation, with the time difference, that the time zone is not always friendly for us to join, because sometimes it start at 9 or 10 p.m. here, which unfortunate, but we also acknowledge the challenge of having this kind of global program. So that's being appreciated. And what do I find useful, and I think other colleagues too. I mean, we try as much as possible to convey the key messages. For example, I mean, Patty, you were there during our safeguard and gender training, and if you recall, I'm using actually 1 or 2 slides from the module number 2, I believe, is one of the smart agri indicators. So I think that's one evidence that how we benefit from the gender learning course. I mean, there was just some random example, but that's one thing that definitely useful. And again, the homework would be how to relate them to our gender action plan. I'm sure, all of the projects working, we do have gender action plan or gender strategy at different level of detail, and how to put that into practice. I think Agustela, you have mentioned the team can also support like gender specific clinic. So I think that would be one way that when we talk about having a 5 field coordinator at each of the site with different gender related issues, so how do we translate this gender action plan at the activities level at project site? So the country, I mean, what we would love to do is Baratna, I mean, the NPM always undertake like a routine coordinator with the coordination meeting with the field coordinators, right? So each coordination meeting will take up different topics. So gender could be one of the topic that is being discussed. And during this meeting, we encourage the field coordinators to raise their gender related issue, assuming that they have been trained. However, we need to do the training, like refresher training again and again. And I think that's also the role that this gender learning course program can, fill in the gap, because we might not always have the resource. Although you mentioned, Patty, that maybe one of the limitation is having a general information, but even though it's kind of general, it's a good refresher for all of us for us to take, to trigger our, the next question. So what? How do we nationalize or localize the context, the general context that is, that is presented during this gender learning course? That would be our next homework. So sorry for talking too much. I'll stop there. Thank you all. Thanks again.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. Great reflections. Yeah, trying to take these materials down to the activity level. Absolutely. That's a key challenge.
Patty, we
Okay.
have Juliana from CI. She wants to have an intervention, but she had problems with that.
Wonderful. Juliana, please take the floor.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Patty and team, for bringing this together and presenting it. So my perspective's a little bit different from the one of the local teams, because I'm from the CIGF agency, but I have like interacted a lot with the FOLUR Liberia team. And one of the things that I think we have appreciated a lot from the spaces is that whenever you do the trainings, you're always seeking to bring specific examples of what countries on the field are doing. And I think that's useful in two ways. One, because I feel it motivates as well, like the teams that are doing already good practices or efforts to mainstream gender, so that their efforts are recognized in a global space. And the other thing is because like it makes closer the fact that these things can actually be done in contexts that are similar to other countries. So that's something that I really appreciate. Moving forward, as you put the idea of the like tailored clinics, I think it's going to be also a great opportunity in which you can go more into details on the needs of every country or different countries, and maybe it can also like spark opportunities to more tailored exchanges between countries. So for example, I'm envisioning if Liberia, for example, they're working to sensitize male traditional leaders and religious leaders on gender. It might be that other countries have identified like similar challenges, and then you can very, in a tailored way, like put them into conversation. Because I think the other thing that's sometimes challenging is like the amount of time for joining this type of spaces, but maybe the fact that there's an opportunity for tailored support and tailored like exchange, it would motivate even more the projects to engage. And finally, I have a question about the proposal of having like a general training and a more in-depth one. So the general training would be for the whole FOLUR project teams, like the whole team, not just some people in the team.
Yes, definitely. That's what we want, actually, to have the whole team. Not
Okay.
everyone, because when we talk about gender integration, the idea is that everyone implementing different components have to have an understanding of gender challenges within that area, which is not necessarily obvious related to gender, but then there are always underlying gender issues. So they need to start becoming more aware of it. So the more colleagues join, the better it is. So that's why we don't need to keep it too technical in terms of details that we are providing, because that maybe goes to the next stage for people who are directly working on these issues, but to have an overall understanding of gender in the context of their work. So if colleagues join, that would be great. And that's why we're coming up with this idea of more smaller groups, regional trainings, so we don't have bigger audiences, so to create more sort of an environment that people can exchange more easily and feel more free to talk and to share their experiences.
Thanks. That really makes sense, and that's all from my end.
Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. Juliana, please, where are you joining us today?
I'm in Colombia,
In
Bogotá.
Colombia right now, but working globally, right? For
Yeah.
CI, you're working for CI, right?
Yes.
Thank you. And we have, before giving the floor to Erika, who is waiting for a little bit, please bear with us. We have some comments in the chat box from the Peru team. We have a thank you to the interpreter Gael. He has translated into French, and I have done it to Spanish. So maybe I don't know if Julie or Karina, you want to share something with us and comment what you were typing. The chat box. Karina and Julie.
Hello.
Puedes
Le
hacerlo en
quisiera dar
español sin problema,
gracias.
si quieres.
Sí, el pase a Julie, que es nuestra especialista de género, pero
mencionar que muy interesante las oportunidades de capacitación para el equipo de FOLUR Perú. Y sí, apreciaría también que se puedan seguir dando intercambios con proyectos de commodities similares, en nuestro caso café y cacao, porque pienso que a pesar de estar en otras regiones, las experiencias van a ser muy similares en cuanto a género y podemos aprender entre ambas. Y también quería mencionar que en el caso del proyecto de FOLUR Perú, este proyecto está en el mismo Ministerio del Ambiente de Perú. Entonces, todas las capacitaciones que puedan darse en género al equipo FOLUR, pues también podemos extrapolarlas al equipo del Ministerio del Ambiente. Le doy el pase a Julie, gracias.
Sí, muchas gracias, muy buenos días. Julie Pinillos, especialista en género del proyecto FOLUR en Perú. Y bueno, sí, un poco lo que comentábamos nosotros en el chat era que como parte de nuestro trabajo estamos haciendo espacios de diálogo con las mujeres un poco para identificar las brechas de género. Y posterior a esto, nosotros tenemos contemplado elaborar un programa de formación en género para formadores de campo, porque queremos asegurar la sostenibilidad de las acciones de género. Adicionalmente, estamos trabajando también con los ministerios, algo que ustedes mencionaban, nos parece bastante interesante, porque necesitamos tener una acción más sistémica. Y actualmente estamos teniendo acercamiento con el Ministerio de la Mujer y Poblaciones Vulnerables, que también tienen un plan de acción de género y que queremos ver cómo articularnos. También lo estamos viendo con el Ministerio de Producción en Perú y de la mano con el Ministerio del Ambiente, ¿no? Queremos un poco visibilizar este rol de las mujeres, pero trabajando desde la base. Y es conocer cómo ellas están enfrentando estas limitaciones, qué necesidades tienen, pero también conocer las propuestas que ellas tienen para promover y convertirse en agentes de cambio, ¿no? Y puedan lograr este posicionamiento en las diferentes esferas. Gracias.
Gracias, Julie. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Estela, please. Yes. Would you like to?
May I intervene? Is it okay?
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you so much. You actually raised a very important issue that I'm very happy to hear that it's happening in one of the countries of coordinating the activities with the overall gender equality agenda of the country, because these are not women empowerment, and especially empowerment of rural women. It's normally should be part of every country's gender equality agenda, and coordination with the ministry which is in charge of gender equality issues is key to this process, in addition to specific ministries working on agriculture or environment. So because it's in their interest actually to have more and more activities empowering rural women. They have to report to human rights treaty bodies. They have political commitments. So they have a very big interest in this issue, and they could use their sort of authority, because they usually have this coordination authority within the gender equality mechanism in the country, to push the line ministries to do more in these areas. So it's a very good strategy. We would be happy to discuss this further, how I have been working on this issue a lot, actually trying to coordinate the work on gender in different areas such as agriculture with the overall gender equality agenda of different countries. So we would be happy to help you more on this. And we hope that other countries also learn from this experience of trying to do this work in coordination with gender equality mechanisms, national gender equality mechanisms, and also join forces when resources are scarce. They can use other opportunities to coordinate with ongoing projects in different areas, for example, gender-based violence or women economic empowerment, access to justice, to sort of try to fill in the gaps where specifically FOLUR cannot meet the needs that they cannot meet based on the resources that they have. So thank you.
And thank you, Erika, for your patience, please.
No worries. It's a
The
very
floor.
stimulating, interesting question. So I'm here also reshaping my comment and my question according to the last comment. So
And please introduce yourself, Erika, so everybody knows who you are. Please introduce
Okay,
yourself.
so let me introduce myself. So my name is Erika Valerio. I am a gender and agri-food specialist working with the gender team FAO in the headquarters. Yeah, at the moment I'm in Brazil. So nice to meet you all. My comment / question would be more towards the operational side of this context regional training approach. So I'm curious to understand a little bit more if you have thoughts on how you're planning to assess these diverse needs across the countries, and also how you're going to tailor that, because based on past experience, it can be really time and resource consuming. So I was wondering if you thought about or if you have any mechanism that you can tap on and facilitate this assessment, this delivery, this regional attention. And based on the comment of our colleagues, Judy, on the opportunities also to incorporate some TOT in the program, like you training the project, but using an approach of training of trainers, so to bring them the capacity to also spread and trickle down the knowledge. So it's because it's, as you said, it's very important to have the ministries, the agencies, everyone in the country that are actually working together in the project to be in the same line, so in the same page with us when we're talking about gender, when we talk about the differentiations of the women activities across the value chains, and bring them also this awareness, which is important. Without them, implementation will be quite difficult. So over.
No, good questions. And I think it remains a challenge for us. So our approach has been to reach out to the gender specialists with each of the country project teams and liaise through them. But your question is really, how do we make the next version of our training materials really targeted to that training of trainers that has to happen, like within Peru, for example, that we heard. I'd like to hear from some country project teams. How do we make that easier for you? I mean, I think we can do some more targeted, maybe little surveys of the teams on their needs with respect to, say, coffee and cocoa or palm oil, and that would be one way. Yeah, it's if any country projects want to chip in here in the chat or put up your hand.
Maybe,
it's a
Patty,
very good question.
we have some colleagues from Africa. I don't know if you want Evie, Josephine.
Yes, let's hear from them. Maybe they can help us with this.
Titi Lope, if they want to share anything from their perspectives.
Just an intervention while colleagues think and gather their thoughts. In addition to our training, there are within the FACS community, there are a lot of other ongoing processes that we are also trying to coordinate with. And one of them is the regional dialogues that have been taken place within different regions. And they are trying to identify the overall needs, including gender. And some regions, for example, Asia, had identified gender equality as one of the main issues or priorities to be addressed. So we're also using this as a starting point for the regional events that we are, they organize the capacity assessment. And so we're going to analyze the results, and through the focal points for these assessments, and the gender focal points that Patty mentioned, we're going to design the next regional gender learning program, if we can call it already like this. But
Mhm.
that's the other approach within the FACS community system.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. Okay, let's, which of our
I think
African
Patty,
colleagues?
yeah, I don't know if any of our colleagues from Africa would like to intervene. If not, I suggest that maybe we can try with the Menti just to take a few minutes and see what the people feels. How do you feel about that, Patty? We have some questions prepared to use the Menti. Maybe we can have some
Sandra.
response. Yes.
Sí, no, soy Julie. Quería aprovechar este espacio también, de repente hasta que los colegas se animen. Otra de las estrategias que estamos trabajando en Perú es la conformación o fortalecimiento de una red de lideresas productoras de café y cacao libres de deforestación. Lo que estamos buscando con estos espacios es lograr que estas mujeres tengan, valga la redundancia, espacios de diálogo, de intercambio de conocimientos y experiencias, ¿no? El manejo de sus cultivos y cómo ellas se van a integrar a estos esfuerzos por la conservación medioambiental, ¿no? Estos espacios son interesantes porque al trabajar con estas lideresas no solamente las estamos dotando de conocimientos y fortaleciendo sus capacidades, sino que estamos logrando que ellas asuman la autonomía para integrarse en la gestión de la producción sostenible, libre de deforestación, ¿no? Las estamos preparando para luego poder posicionarlas en otros espacios ya a otro nivel con sus gobiernos locales, los gobiernos regionales y también lograr que estas mujeres puedan tener contacto con otras mujeres de otras regiones, ya que en Perú es un área bastante extensa, están muy distribuidas y de manera muy equidistante las mujeres productoras, ¿no? Entonces, creemos que esta estrategia de fortalecimiento y conformación de esta red va a darle esa autonomía a las mujeres. En algún momento se van a promover espacios de intercambio, ¿no? De experiencias y esperemos que esto pueda llegar también a un nivel internacional, ¿no? Para que esta red vaya creciendo y se vaya fortaleciendo. Necesitamos que estas mujeres hagan escuchar su voz, ¿no? Y no solamente una voz de reclamo, sino también de propuestas para lograr el cambio. El proyecto, si bien es cierto, es un proyecto que va a la parte técnica, productiva y libre de deforestación, pero tiene un rostro muy humano, ¿no? Y creo que ese es lo fundamental del equipo del proyecto FOLUR en Perú, es el equipo que está a cargo del proyecto viene interiorizando y siendo consciente de que cada una de las acciones y estrategias que se tienen que abordar es teniendo esta visión, ¿no? De tener una atención diferenciada entre las necesidades que están presentando el grupo de varones productores, pero también aterrizar en aquellas necesidades reales de las mujeres. Entonces, esta es otra de las estrategias que estamos abordando también.
Oh, I'm very excited to hear this. One of the things we can do for all the country teams is we can help highlight these stories. That is a wonderful story. Let's get our comms people involved, talk about how you're strengthening this network of women leaders in deforestation-free cocoa, more sustainable production by women. Let's elevate that. Let's talk about it. Let's share, like you suggested, so it can be shared across regions, across countries. That is one thing the global platform can help you do. So I encourage all the teams. We want to hear these stories. So send a little email with just a few bullet points. We can start to elaborate on it. Because that is the kind of exact story that we want to help generate. Someone said it earlier, we want to inspire people. We want to give them ideas of what can be done within these projects. that goes beyond the same old approach, if you know what I mean. So thank you for sharing that. Do we have any African colleagues that want to speak up? You've been pretty quiet.
Marion speaking. I
Yes,
don't know if you
Marianne.
can hear me.
Yes, we can.
I think
Thank you, Marianne.
I want to really add on to why we need to do capacity buildings and targeting specific areas in the capacity building. For example, I would be particularly interested, of course, along the way, we have been talking about capacity, gender analysis, gender mainstreaming, planning and implementation. But to me, maybe what is not fully coming out is the M&E, monitoring and evaluation of gender in projects, because I'm thinking when we bring in the monitoring, we're directly trying to measure what we want to do, because what gets measured gets managed. If we clearly set out the indicators, and then we want to measure the outcomes, of course, from the targets, clearly setting out the targets, setting out the numbers, what we want to achieve, so that as the project implementers in implementation, we are guided by clear targets. Thus, we shall be managing what we have set out. So what gets measured really gets managed. So it also helps us to achieve the objectives in implementation of these activities. So ideally, when we have the broader interventions, we want to clearly set out what is there in gender that we want to measure in each of the broader interventions. So once we clearly measure, we can also be able to measure at the outcome level. Yeah. So the measuring begins at planning, implementation activity, and then also be able to measure. Why that one is not really coming out probably is a capacity gap. People, M&E is a little advanced and needs clear capacity on setting targets, first of all.
Yes.
Once targets are clearly set, it's easy to follow along the way.
Absolutely.
It also
Thank you.
helps us. Yeah, okay.
Marianne, sorry, I want to follow up with you because thank you. What came out when we were doing the modules in terms of integrated landscape management or value chains is the M&E and the indicators showed up across all three of those modules. And in fact, the IFC really highlighted that, sharing some really nice things about specific indicators that the private sector needs to be thinking about. And FAO has developed a lot of materials that and shared them on the M&E. You know, we could have a cross-cutting M&E on gender and indicators session. And to me, that's actually not really necessarily regional or commodity focused. And we haven't thought about that. So that's a good thing to think about. And the other thing I'm hearing from you is we've got to get the M&E people from the project teams involved. So we've been targeting the gender specialists, but we're going to rely on you to then maybe pull in your M&E person or people. to be really effective. So that's kind of what I'm hearing. So thanks for that suggestion. Wonderful suggestion.
And we have a couple of comments on the chat box, Patty and Estela. One is from Dr. Titilopi from Nigeria. I don't know if you want to share with us. Titilopi, you can open the mic if you're available. I don't know, Patty and Estela, if you can find a comment. It's about that the gender focal point needs to be prioritized like others in FOLUR projects, something that maybe Estela you were mentioning. And in the case of Nigeria, has a gender mainstreaming and it's specifically targeting women getting a title document for their lands.
Land tenure, this is a very important issue that we have also touched upon our trainings, mainly on landscape management module. And it's a very important issue and a lot of countries are working on this. So it would be very beneficial to bring those countries and exchange the strategies that they are using. And this is a very valid point. It's all about, you know, trying to organize this training in a way that can be as effective as possible. And it comes down to general, for example, I was reading a comment from India about how people may use and have integrating concepts related to gender integration in their work, but they are not very aware that they are doing so because they lack even like the knowledge of vocabulary, which is a bit more technical. So we have different needs and we cannot address them through one training or one, even one module, like with different sessions. We need to design one that is targeting specifically people who do not have gender knowledge. I mean, and this is very easy and this is very straightforward. We have the starting point, the module 1, and then we have to have more specific trainings for different issues that are being brought up, like in this kind of an issue, for example, land tenure or monitoring and evaluation, sort of going a bit more deeper. So that is my take on these different comments that are coming. And it reflects more or less what we heard through the interviews as well.
Yeah. No, thank you to our Nigerian colleague. This is great. You just brought to mind, you say that your project is targeting, seeing that women will get titled documents for their land. Well, it jumped out to me, Burundi, that's happening, and Ethiopia. So maybe we could have a session on that topic, land titling, land certification for, you know, women's names on land certificates. And we could bring the different countries that are doing that together and invite everyone so they could learn from the experience too, but have 2 or 3 of you talk about your specific experience in that area, because that is very inspiring. That's really nice to hear you're doing that. Thank you for sharing. Sandra, do we have some more?
I don't think, yeah, no, Titilopi was saying that she was in a share office, so she wasn't able to comment. So I think that we have heard from our colleagues in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, and globally. Yeah, if anyone else would like to add anything, something in addition, please feel free to do it in the chat box or just open your mic. And maybe, yeah, Patty, Estela, if you want to wrap up with this part, and we don't need to stay to the 90 minutes. I mean, we can wrap up earlier. So if you want to close that, and then we can go to the wrap up.
I would really suggest that we go with Menti questions if we have time for that, because that would be a way of capturing everyone's views as a good summary. And I'm very happy to hear that the same things that we were discussing in individual interviews were sort of enforced and supported by other colleagues who participated today. So we have sort of more evidence to support our proposal with regards to future gender learning programs. So thank you very much to everyone who shared their insight here and also through the interviews that we had. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Thank you. So yes, let's go ahead then with the Menti. It should only take a few minutes. And thank everyone for their time and sharing this. This is really good, and please reach out to us to follow up. We want to continue to work with you all, and you're helping us try to figure out how best to do that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Alejandra and Philippe are going to support us with the Menti questions, and it's gonna be like a summary of what we have been discussing. So thank you, Philippe, for sharing the link in the chat box. So for all of you, please use your phone or your computer. You have the link on the chat box and the code. So copy the code. Once you are there, you can click on the hand to know that you are there. And when we have yeah, thank you, Alejandra, for showing that on the screen. So just 1 minute, 2 minutes for everybody to be able to join. Okay, so people are joining, and we have this first question that we've been discussing about who should participate in the more in-depth technical trainings. We were talking about the introductory module. And here what we have is only gender experts and focal points, program staff working directly with communities, commodity specialists, all of the above. And you can see the numbers there. And yeah, so let's wait for a few more. So yeah, what do you think, Estela? Is like kind of between gender specialist and the program staff?
Yes, gender specialists, of course, but also program staff. So we may not have all program staff, but like for example, in the case of Indonesia, the coordinators that work directly with communities would benefit from these in-depth trainings.
Great, so we can go, yeah, to the next question, please. So this is about what type of training formats would be most beneficial for the gender learning program. We have already talked about this regional training focused on the specific challenge and time zones. Oh, it is moving fast. Training around specific commodity value chains, yeah, cocoa, livestock, others. A mix of regional and global approaches, or global training to foster this cross-regional exchange. So we see also still a kind of a balance between regional and value chain focus training. Okay, so it seems that it's aligned with what we were discussing. So let's go to the next question. please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is an open-ended question. So what topics should the courses of the gender learning program focus on? We were discussing some of them already. And we would like to hear from you if you have additional ideas, additional needs. And you can type them there.
Yeah, maybe this question requires a bit more time for reflection, but okay. Program management and gender. This is covered usually through the first module that we represented. Gender vocabularies, budgeting for gender activities, this as well. Community engagement is sort of more specific depending on the commodity, depending on the country context. How to better communicate gender actions to those implementing the project on the ground, yes. This is about gender awareness in general. Gender analysis and M&As. Yes, M&A is coming. Yes, how to expand gender mainstreaming beyond gender focal points. Well, the role of gender focal points is actually to expand gender mainstreaming. Creating gender story. Yeah, it's about communication, which is also an important component of FOLUR in all country projects.
There is one about to reassess the role of women in the production of commodities, revalorar el rol de las mujeres en la producción de commodities. Value. And estrategias, this is another one. Estrategias para transversalizar el enfoque de género en programas productivos sostenibles. So this is like a mainstream strategies, gender in the sustainable productive programs.
Yes, these are very interesting suggestions. Some of them relate to this overall training that we mentioned, and some relate to more specific in-depth training. So there are different perspectives also in the topics, depending. So it's very, very interesting to see.
Okay, I think that we don't have, this is the last question, Alejandra?
Yeah, yes, it is. I think that most of our participants have given their insights right now.
So thank you.
Great.
So I think
very interesting.
So we are getting to the end of this session. I think it has been extremely useful for us. I hope it has been also for the participants. I would like to thank everybody who have joined today, and particularly to you, Patty, Estela, to Erika, Maurizio, our colleagues from FFO, and also to the interpreters. Thank you for supporting us, and even in the chat box. Thank you. So we are collecting all these insights and inputs. We're in the process of designing the next gender learning program. We will take very seriously all your insights, and please, you already know us, so don't hesitate to contact us, Patty, Estela, Alejandra, myself. If you haven't done it yet, please join the FOLUR gender community. Under the FOLUR community, you will find the resources. You will find there some updated news. You can use your mobile phone also to check it, the information. And you will find also the recordings and the presentations of the gender learning program. And after we finish the session, there will be a survey which will pop up, so you can also add more insights and comments to the survey regarding the event itself. This is very useful for the FACS community team, not only for this event, but for others, and also any other comments you have to improve the next edition of the Gender Learning Program. So with that, I would like to thank you also, my colleagues, Alejandra and Philippe. Alexandra wasn't able to join until the end of the call because she had a commitment. So thank you very much. And Patty, Estela, you want to add anything else?
Great. No, I think you've said it very eloquently. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate your times, our colleagues in all parts of the world. I realize it's a little fast and a lot of information. So let's keep up this discussion and dialogue, and let's keep sharing information because we're learning so much more as we go forward. And thank you for all your hard work. You're doing amazing things.
Thank you. See you next year.
Yeah, if you want to turn on your camera, maybe we can say bye and have like a group picture. Thank you for joining us today, everybody. Yeah, it could be great to have a
There
picture.
we go. Nice to see you all.
At some time, we would love to have a face-to-face meeting.
Yes, we will work on some face-to-face meetings. That would be so special.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye.
Gracias and merci. Gracias for joining us today.